Hi guys, so I thought I'd do something a little bit different today and record a video of a recent fight that we did as Hungry Wolves and talk through my thinking that I had during the fight to try and help you guys understand what it is that I'm thinking during fights to hopefully help you anticipate what I would be thinking on the calls I'd be making in future fights. This is something different that I'm trying, so I'd apologise for any poor quality elements of the video, but it's something new to me. And if you like it, please let me know and I'll consider doing some more in different types of fights. Unfortunately, the video of the fight that I'm recording didn't start right at the beginning of the fight because I only turned the recording on midway through. But we find ourselves at Aleswell fighting against a heavy red presence and trying to defend. So what had happened by the time the video had started is that the Reds had already sieged the north wall and also the main gate, and we were trying to defend from there. So I start by pushing out and defending on the inner courtyard, and what I thought I'd do is I'd talk you through the fight and the decisions that I was making during those fights. So I hope you enjoy. If you do, let me know and I'll see if I can do some more in the future. So at this point we are just grouping up to push out, and I'm trying to assess the situation of what's going on outside. So I see that as we come out this area is relatively clear, so I'm pushing towards the group towards the main gate where the fight is, and I can quite immediately see that there's quite a heavy red presence. So when there is a heavy red presence, I never want to try and push head on if we can. So what I do is I see that there's already quite a few pushed in, so I move beyond the ones that have already pushed in to try and get at the back line, which will generally be the weaker members of the group, the healers and the light armor magic DPS type characters. So I'm pushing out of the keep to be able to defeat those characters first and thin out the group a little bit before fighting the more heavy fighters, which will be closer to the front of the fight. And as you can see, I briefly pushed out and then turned around and back inside to try and fight those already inside. But again, I'm still not pushing into the main group because again, I'm still concerned about the numbers and the risk of us wiping. And at this point I see that there's a red group that just dropped out from the tower, and I see that we're starting to lose members of the group. So I'm pulling the group back inside the keep to take a defensive position and fight again from inside the keep. So unfortunately we did lose a couple of people here, but fortunately most of the group did manage to get back inside. So we were about to lose some more people as they try and get through the door. Anyone that's played Cyrodiil PvP for a while will know that it's very difficult to get through doors when you're in a fight. But fortunately we did get a decent amount of the group through. And but I noticed that we did lose some of the group, and I noticed that there is a camp up to our east side. So what I'm doing at this point is moving the group back towards the postern door so that the ones that respawned at the keep can have our support when they're trying to get back inside. So again, my objective at this point is just to get everyone back inside because I've assessed the situation and found that outside it is too heavy fights for us to survive and we would wipe if we stay outside, so I want to take a more defensive position inside. So fortunately, using the camp, we managed to get most of the group back together again and back inside. And at this point I'm looking at what the door is to see how much time we've got to set up a defence. So I see that the door is still quite full health and it's going down relatively slowly, so my first option and first action is to move the group upstairs so that we can regenerate our ultimates. You can see that I'm using an RDK add-on so I can see what ultimates the group has, and I can see that there's quite a few that don't have the ultimate up, so that's why I'm taking the time to move upstairs. At this point someone in the group called that the postern door was also under attack, so I was looking to see and assess whether the inner main gate or whether the postern door would likely fall first, because that would dictate how I defend the keep. It's much easier to defend if the attackers try and come in through the main gate than it is to defend if they try and come in through a postern door. So when I see that the postern door is going down fairly slowly and the main gate is going down fairly quickly, I'm actually happy about that because it makes our job of defending easier. So my plan of how to defend is generally dictated by the skill level of the enemy group. I'd assessed from earlier in the fight, in this situation it was, whilst there was a lot of reds, it was mostly pugs. So therefore we could take a relatively aggressive line when in defending, but still there is a lot of them, so you do need to be wary because one small mistake can lead to a wipe. And the general principle when doing these keep defences is that you need to make sure that you control the top flag, i.e. the flag in between the two postern doors. The bottom flag, the one near the transistor shrine and the scroll position, isn't as important, and you can quite easily give that up and still hold the keep. Now I notice at this point that the door is getting close to being down, so I'm moving the group to the position required to defend. So what I'm doing at the moment is stacking the group up above the bottom flag with the intention of dropping onto the bottom flag, but I'm not doing it immediately. The reason I'm not doing it immediately is I want a decent amount of the reds to push in. As I said earlier in the video, I don't want to fight the full red group head on because that will likely lead to a wipe. So I'm letting quite a few of the reds come in so that we can split the reds between those that are already in and those that are still outside. So I'm just waiting for the moment, but now I've decided that there's enough reds already inside, so I drop down, immediately kill those that wouldn't have been ready on the bottom flag, and push straight up to the top flag to kill those that were already inside, thus splitting the red group and helping us deal with them in smaller groups. Unfortunately for us, there's quite a heavy red push straight after we did this, so we need to spread away from the top flag for the moment because there will be a heavy red DPS on the top flag and they'll be dropping a lot of ultimates. Once those ultimates have run out, I then push it back onto the top flag, but only briefly because there was still a lot of DPS there, and then move the group away from the top flag again to get to the safety and out to the DPS, and regroup, regen our resources before pushing in. I do this a couple of times throughout the video where I just move from side to side of the top flag because this lets us dump all our damage and all our ultimates on the top flag for a couple of seconds, kill as many as we can, and then move out again before the enemy has a chance to do their DPS in return. Now you see at this point I'm moving up to the middle floor. This is because I'm trying to regain control of the bottom flag, and the way to do that in my view is to briefly drop down, and then if it is a survivable position, stay on the bottom flag. If it is not, go back up to the top flag. At this point I try and push out again to just spread the reds between those that are inside and ones that aren't inside, but quickly assess that there's too many reds and I need to get back inside. So I move back up to the safety of the top flag, where fortunately there's some other blues that help our retreat, and regroup at the top flag, and then move on to the siege merchant position again to get out of the heavy red DPS that is on the top flag. And at this point we do a few more sweeps across. Unfortunately there's a lot of lag which slows down our movements, but fortunately we managed to heal through this and survive. Most of the group survives. So we sweep across to the other side, again dumping our ultimates on the top flag and then moving out of the countered ultimates of the enemy group. This time we stay on the flag a little bit longer because there doesn't seem to be too many reds about, and the best way of actually killing the reds is to stay on the top flag for a little bit longer. But again I see that our health bars are starting to wobble a little bit, so I'll move us out to let us regroup and let us heal and regen our resources. And again at this point I'm trying to push to gain control of the bottom flag again, so I will stack up and drop us all down. This way we catch the reds out by surprise. Hopefully they won't have the buffs up and we can get quite a few quick kills before they manage to regroup and anticipate our movements. This time there's less reds, so I stay near the bottom flag and start sweeping, equivalent to how I did on the possum doors, across the transistor shrine and the scroll position. Again, you can't stay in one position for too long in these sort of fights because that just allows the enemy group to dump a bunch of ultimates on you which can wipe the group. I then see that our health bars are starting to wobble again, so again I retreat to safety, let us regen our resources and heal up. But when I look back at the bottom flag at this time, I see that there's quite a few blues and not so many reds, so we've actually done a good job there of pushing the reds back a little bit and regaining control of the bottom flag. So I make a mistake here because I want to try and push out, so because I look outside and there doesn't seem to be too many, so we push out, but actually there's another red group that had just come in, so it was really unfortunate timing and the group does wipe. And this represents the importance of having a camp up during these fights, because immediately when we wipe I look and see that we don't have a camp. If that remained the same, we probably would have lost the keep because we wouldn't have been able to respawn and get back in time. Fortunately one of the group members was outside and is able to put a camp up, so they do put a camp up and we respawn at that camp. Now at this point I have two choices. As you can see, the northern wall was down, so we could go through there or we could go through the postern door. There's no real right decision here, either probably would have worked, and I choose to go through the postern door. But I do take a moment when we get to the postern door, oh I'm just kicking someone from the group there, that was offline, when we do get to the postern door to wait for people to catch up a little bit so that we can push in together. It's important for us to push in together because then if there is any gankers on the other side we can fight those gankers together and likely kill them rather than killing us. I quickly assess that there is a lot of reds at the main gate and the group size, the group is a little bit split between those that died and those that didn't, where I didn't want to push in, so I just pull the group back to the safety of the top flag. again, the top flag is probably the safest point of the keep, and important that you hold that. So now I see that the group is back together, and actually the blues are doing really well inside, and it looks like I sold a load of Ritz. That was unfortunate timing from the master merchant, but there we go. So I push straight to the bottom flag and gain control of the bottom flag again. But I see that from a quick glance outside, I can see that there's still too many reds outside to push out directly, because if you push out of the bottom flag, the main gate, the inner main gate directly, you push into a load of DPS that's already there. So it's much safer if you're trying to push to go out of the postern door. So that's what we do, we go out the postern door, and again I'm looking around to see what's going on. I could move directly to the inner main gate, but the risk of that is that the group will be a little bit spread out and not ready for the push. So I move us so I can see what's going on, everyone else in the group can see what's going on, but we don't actually push directly in. When everyone's ready, we do then push in, making sure to activate proxies and push into the group. However, there's still too many to beat in a head-on fight, so we just sweep across, because what I'm trying to do here is just disrupt the group, stop them from being effective, and help the other blues that are already inside also push out and support us. So again, I'm just sweeping around, keeping the group moving, being a distraction, but not really engaging the main group. However, this does make the reds scatter, and it does make them less effective. So when I glance back here, I do see that actually the other blues aren't yet pushing out, so I just continue just not fighting the main group and just taking on smaller groups. However, at this point I do assess that the red group has spread out enough for us to push, so we do push in and we do a standing fight here. This is perhaps the riskiest point of the fight, because we were still roughly equal numbers between the blues and the reds, and I do see that the health bars are starting to wobble, so I run back inside to be safe. There's no rush in these sort of fights. It's better to be safe and careful and patient and just take the reds down one bit at a time, rather than trying to do one hasty push that might wipe us and lose us the keep. However, I do quickly push back out because the reds are starting to thin, and so I can be a little bit more aggressive. So I push back out, again moving to one side rather than straight forward, because if you move straight forward you're more likely to fall into their DPS. And at this point I see that the reds have thinned out, so my focus switches to trying to repair all the breaches so that no future reds can get in. It's very easy at this point to think you've won the fight, but if a big red group soon pushes in, you could still lose quite easily. So that's why I want to get the outer repaired, so that no more reds can get in, and at that point we're much safer. So that's what we focus on now. However, we're very vulnerable at this point because we're all stationary, we're all repairing rather than using skills. So if there was a big red push at this point, we'd be very vulnerable to wiping. So I'm very nervous, and I'm keeping looking at where the reds are, because I'm ready to react and run if there's any sort of heavy push. There was starting to be a heavy push, so I moved the group away despite the door not being fully repaired, and focus on fighting. Now I'm aware at this point that the other blues are pushing out, so that we don't need to immediately focus on the reds, and I'm also aware of the fact that the northern breach is still open. So again, with that intention of stopping any further reds getting in, I move the group to northern breach, because the risk of more reds coming in is at this point higher than the risk of the reds that are already here actually being able to take the keep. So that's why I'm focusing on repairing. Now I tried to get this all the way back to 100% so that we don't need to worry about it for a while, but when we get up to about 85%, the reds start sieging again from outside, so we can't fully get it repaired. There's not a lot you can do about this. It's just the mechanics of the game. When it's under siege you can't repair. So we do just take a moment here to keep repairing, but then I'm aware at this point that the outer main gate was only repaired to about 30%, so if there was a heavy siege there, it would soon come back down again, and we'd soon have reds back in the courtyard. So as soon as we can't repair this any further, I'm moving back down with the intention of pushing into any reds that were on the main gate. Now I do notice at this point there's a couple of reds on the wall, so we were moving in that general direction anyway, so I just take the moment to clean up. The intention being clean up both of them. However, you'll see that one of them had already ran away by the point that we get on the wall. There's no point trying to chase down one person with a group of this size, so I just let that one go and focus on the initial objective of trying to kill any reds at the main gate. So we're now moving to the main gate, and I notice at this point that there is no reds to kill, so we don't need to worry about that. So now I'm reassessing the situation, and I'm aware of the fact that the north wall was under siege, and at this point that's the only threat to keep, so that's what we moved to do. do. However, we don't want to push straight up into that red group, because if they are sieging, if your group gets hit by a couple of sieges, that can very easily wipe a group, because sieges do a lot of damage. So I'm fully intending on pushing them from the side, moving up this hill that's directly to our north now. So we keep moving as a group and move up the hill and try and wipe the group, knowing that if we do, we can then fully repair the keep and win the fight. So we're just moving up the hill, and I'm looking around trying to assess the number of reds, because that will dictate my actions. If there was a heavy red presence, again we'd just do sweeping movements and just try and break them up a little bit, not engaging in a major fight. But as I look, I see that there's not actually that many, so I actually let the group do what I call free for all at this point, which is unfocused fighting, where everyone just goes in single tags and tries to clean them up. That's far more effective than these sort of situations where there's only a few to kill, because if you try and stay as a stacked group, all the reds will do is run around you and spread out, and it's highly difficult to kill them all. So we clean up the rest of them, and that represents us winning the fight, and that is where the video ends. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please let me know, and I'll see if I can do some more. If you've got any feedback on what you thought was good and what you thought wasn't good, or if you have any particular topics that you'd like me to discuss my leadership thinking of, please let me know. Other than that, see you on the battlefield.